What is up, YouTube? I'm Mr. Rad and welcome to today's video. I'm going to be hopefully making my turbo cheap missile RX8 run and drive to the point to where we can have a lot of fun and spit a lot of fire out of the hood of this car. This is the world's cheapest turbo RX8. So this is Buzz, my 2004 Mazda RX8, which I paid one pair of Mazda RX8 seats worth of dollars in order to buy this car. We got it running, we tried a hybrid renaissance, we've done all sorts of stuff, and currently it has a VS Racing Garrett 2.0, not Garrett like Garrett, the company that makes really nice turbos. This is Garritt 2.0. I wrote it on there with a Sharpie myself. This is the highest quality of turbo that we could put on our cheapest turbo RX8 on the planet goal here. So with this turbo, we've currently got it set up on a stock ECU. Now, this is literally the whole reason that this video is a royal pain in my butt is because of this feature right here, which is the factory ECU. Okay, so I'm trying to struggle through this for all of us out there that want turbo RX8s on the cheap. And let me tell you, this has been the biggest struggle ever. And I'm not really making it easy on myself either. So the turbo's up here. We used a drive shaft, made a turbo manifold, made an up pipe out the hood because I'm lazy and didn't want to build a down pipe for the sake of, you know, turbo RX8, it's cheap, building a nice exhaust, we don't want to spend more money on it. And in this location, I didn't really set myself up for success on the MAF sensor location. And you guys let me know in the comments 100% of the way that like, hey, you're going to put the MAF sensor there. The car is going to be super mad at you and it's not going to drive it. And I was like, okay, I've driven full Bridgeport 12As on the street. I can suffer through a car that drives poorly. And honestly, let's just take it for a ride. Okay, so I've been driving this thing around, working on the tune. I got a whole bunch of good information from a couple of guys on Patreon, so go check out the Patreon. And I have to give a major thanks to them for helping me understand and learn how tuning the stock ECU works, in addition to Ernie at Phalanx Performance dropping some Versatuner knowledge on me as well. So we're using Versatuner to flash the stock ECU with the MAF, and it's just, let's just go drive it. It's super rad. My mom could not drive this car. So I've been driving this thing around and playing with the tune, and let me tell you, this is definitely the hardest part of turboing an RX8, and that is figuring out the tuning to make the car run properly on the OEM ECU. Now, we know I could just throw this OEM ECU in the trash, put this thing on a standalone, and basically it'd be like any other rotary car, but that sentence in and of itself, throw the ECU in the trash and put the car on a standalone, that's like a $3,000 sentence. As simple as it is for me to say that to you, literally that's the whole new deal. So I'm trying to make it work. I've got some help from a guy on Patreon. He's been sending me some tune stuff. I've implemented some of those changes, driven the car some more, went back to the stock ECU tune, driven the car some more, trying to implement those changes from scratch. And let me just tell you, it's a pain in the freaking butt. But you can drive your car with the turbo. It makes 3 pounds of boost. It's not the most happy car to drive around. It actually kind of sucks to drive. Honestly, it's worse than a Bridgeport 12A, but we'll at least do a little bit of a pull right here. It's not going to be like excessively fast, but it is faster than it was without the turbo, you know? So here you go. Just listen. I got a flashing check engine light. The car's just not stoked to do that. AFRs were good though, honestly. The thing that it's doing is it's like going super rich for no reason. The O2 sensor in the car will only read down to 11.0. So basically once it plugs 11.0, you just know you're way richer than that. And it's doing it whenever you're just driving around, not even so much whenever I'm up on the chip. So I've been playing with adjusting the MAF scaling to try to counter that. I've made some changes that are pretty big, and it's not done what I've wanted it to do, let's just say. So because I'm not an expert, I really don't want to blow up my 70 PSI compression, you know, 4 pairs of seats RX8. I really don't want to blow it up. I want to try to figure this out for us so that us RX8 owners can have fun turbo RX8s. But this is a little bit out of my wheelhouse, and I'm struggling, guys, and that's why this video, you know, we've been working on four-rotor stuff. That's why this video is honestly taking this long. It's because I've been reading and driving this car and changing stuff a good bit, usually a little bit every day, and it I suck at this. Here's the best part about flash-based tuning. VersaTuner tunes the most recent tune. Flash. Next. 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 Make sure the key is on. Already got it. Next. All the beeps, the creeps, and the fleeps. We got the flashing tune going on. Meditating in an RX8 on a back road. Everything I knew I wanted to do in life. We're going to get this thing figured out. And it's going to rip, and it's going to keep spitting gnarly flames out the hood. That's what we want. We just want... It can be dumb, slow, but as long as it's got flames, mint. Fuel pumps kick back on. That means flashing finished. We turn the key back. We count to 3. We turn the key back on. We come over here. We hit next. Hit next again. Prepare your car for use. It clears all the codes, all the flashing check engine lights that we just had. Now we're ready to go again. Finish. Let's see if it made a difference. Dashboard. So RX8 starts every time. Whether it stays running or not, though. Been a bit iffy with this one. Ooh, she's real neat now. And it died. I love cars. I'm gonna go undo what I just did. I don't want to turn on sticky keys, bro. No one ever uses that. Flash new tune. Let's go. Yep. Don't worry. Car died. We're already shut off. We're good to go. Next, next, next. Flashing tune. We meditate. Send a prayer to the car gods, and hopefully this thing works. We're closer to where we were when I did that last pull. Which honestly wasn't that terrible. Like, in boost, it was fine. Like, that's all good. It's this whole drivability part that's like, that's the struggle, you know? And like, honestly, in boost, it's only making, I think it made 4 pounds right there. So this thing's truly gonna be a ripper, let me tell you. You got to put the mass air flow sensor in the right spot. Like, okay, it can't be that bad. It's that bad. You guys are right. Mass airflow sensor location is key to properly running RX8. See, now we're super rich again for no reason. Like, my desired AFR is 14 something, and it's at 11.1. So like, why is it doing that? Now we're back to 15. So like, why does it do that? I don't know. Like, it's properly not slow, guys. Like, it properly rips when it's ripping. It just, like, my mom would never drive this ever. When you're driving and tuning rotaries, like, the key to listen to is like, are all 6 of my apex seals still there after I hit boost? Sounds like it. So I think we're good. Oh, it's pissed. Come on, girlie. I don't think I have enough confidence to turn around in that little gravel area. I think I'm gonna get stuck. We're doing a log, little second gear pull here. Then we'll be back at the shop to conclude with how we're gonna improve the math. I just need the car to drive nicely, okay? Nicely. So I've spent hours driving this car around, messing with trying to scale the MAF. And here's the reason why. Where the MAF is situated, we get some turbulence, okay, in the curve and the fact that it's right next to the turbo and all that stuff. Regardless of that, I do want to kind of walk through brief, high level, really quick in the video, what I have done and learned about VersaTuner at this point in tuning the yellow RX8. So we're going to take that apart and we're going to eye up how we can improve the MAF location. But I really want to walk you through what VersaTuner is like and the things you have to kind of change to really like make it so we can actually do a pull in boost to some extent, and it's still obviously flashing check engine light. So overlay, computer. So we've got VersaTuner pulled up. I'm going to pull open my tunes. We're going to go down here and we're going to go to Turbo Buzz Scaled MAF. So for those of you who don't know my name, it's Eric. EH is just me making the tune. We're going to go to edit. It's going to pull up a new window. Bada bing, bada boom. When you go in here to start tuning your car, the very first thing you need to do is go to advanced. There's only one opportunity to change stuff in advanced, and you're going to hit allow entering unsafe values. Basically, this is VersaTuner saying if you click this button, you're liable for blowing up your car yourself, and they're not going to change it for you. So this allows you to just basically break all the rules. So we click that. We're breaking all the rules. We're gonna hop over to general. We're gonna go down to absolute limits, and we're gonna basically set this car up so that it's allowed to see boost in a sense. This is where this gets a little bit tricky, is you need to raise the maximum operating load at these lower RPMs. So basically, once you start making boost, this car doesn't read map pressure, it doesn't read actual boost. It doesn't know it's making boost. So it's just making load, some calculation that it does to generate a load value. And you're gonna exceed, like in A, it might crack 1.1 load. So you're gonna exceed that. So you need to bring the max load down so that you can like make boost at low RPM, right? So here, you're gonna hop in this table, bring the maximum load down such that you've got, 125, 152 all the way across. Unless you're like making 7,000 horsepower, this is probably gonna be plenty. And I'm gonna put this caveat in here right now. If you're jumping in here and changing your stuff to these exact values that I have on my screen, I am not a tuner. The people who are helping me are not certified tuners. We are just guys trying to figure out an RX8. So take any of this information with a grain of salt, because obviously y'all saw how my car drove and it does not drive very well. So we're figuring it out, we're learning, and I can promise you we'll make this work. We might just, our hardware might have to change it a little bit. So yes, I'm not a tuner. Don't take this so lightly, but hopefully you can learn something from me learning stuff with you. So once we've changed the maximum operating load so that we can actually, go hard in the paint and make boost, right? Now you have to set up your fuel tables and your ignition tables to have that much load on the axes. So we're gonna use the target air-fuel ratio table here as an example. Along the top of the map is load. Along the left side of the map is RPM. We wanna readjust the map such that we can have the maximum load that we're gonna see during boost, which is gonna be more than 1. So you can't really treat 1.0 load as like the transition into boost, but let's just kind of plus or minus in there as the transition into boost as I've seen it driving around. The top axis set up here from 0 to 2.25. I believe from the factory it is from 0 to 1.125. So you're gonna have a little bit more resolution, just meaning 0 to 1 takes up more of the table, and then 1 to 2 takes up less of the table. So up here in this max load area, we'll say we don't quite need as much resolution. The down low areas is where we're trying to like make this thing drivable. So you're gonna do that for all 3 fuel tables. How you change those values, you're gonna click on this little ruler. It's gonna come up here, edit axis. You can change this to whatever you want. Whenever you go to the timing table down here, leading timing, you also need to rescale the axis in these tables to match your fuel table. So this is the same, load on the top, RPM on the left. You wanna bring this up so you can make the boost on your stock ECU. Load targeting is where this gets a little bit crazy. The VE table, you're gonna need to, 1, rescale it, except they flip the RPM and the load. So you have load on the left and RPM on the right. You gotta change that scale, and then you gotta come in here and basically, because you have a turbo, your volumetric efficiency of the system, it's getting more air in, your VE is gonna go up. So you're gonna wanna raise this up a little bit as well as you're tuning your car. So hopping down to the MAF sensor calibration, this is where things get tricky. And there's a real good write-up on how to do this on RX8 Club that I've been following. but because my MAF is in like the stock size hole, there isn't, you know, less or more volume necessarily passing over it. So I've been changing some of these values, plus or minus 10%, driving around, and it has zero effect. My car still drives terribly, and I just put them back to stock. That last pull in the video, what you saw, and the car still runs just as terribly as it did whenever I was changing stuff. Honestly, it's better with the stock numbers because the MAF's in the stock location. So now that you kind of understand how the ECU works a little bit and what you need to do to be able to get it to do boost, let's look at the MAF sensor and then try to figure out a good way to improve my MAF sensor location. So before I jump to taking the MAF off and let's look at how terrible my location is, I want to show you guys a little bit of kind of the science behind fluid dynamics. This is going to be like a little bit of light hydraulic-y fluid dynamics lesson for you, okay? So we've got this, let's just call this box the MAF sensor, okay? And in the middle of this is this sensor that's hanging down, and air is going to come in right here and then come out right here. And what this is doing is effectively measuring the speed and then calculating, because it knows the area of this, the amount of flow that is coming into the engine, the amount of airflow, the volume, okay? So for the other turbo guys out there that have taken the MAF sensor, just like if you have a cold air intake and you install it in a pipe that's smaller than the factory one, you're going to need to rescale the MAF settings in the ECU, because at a given velocity of air running into, let's say, your 3-inch pipe of your cold air intake, now because the area is smaller and Q, which is flow, equals velocity times area, which you guys have heard me talk about this before when we were talking hybrid stuff and designing a header, right? The Q is what you're trying to calculate. So if you change the area to a smaller number, that means the velocity is higher in order to achieve the same flow. So the computer is measuring the voltage across the MAF sensor, which then means that at, let's say, a voltage reading of 2.0, okay, and you haven't adjusted anything in the computer, so 2.0 for both of these, 2.0 in the factory form, let's just say that that yields like a flow rate of 3 pounds per minute, okay? Down here, the 2.0 volts is only going to yield a flow rate of like 2.8 something pounds per minute, because the area is smaller by X percentage and whatnot. So this is what we're talking about when we mean MAF scaling, to give you guys a little bit of like the science of it, because I feel like if you don't understand flow rates and fluid dynamics, when you see on a forum it says you need to scale your MAF, and then you're trying to realize like what you're doing, this is what you're actually accounting for. So in my situation, me scaling the MAF only made it worse both ways I was trying, is because I'm actually not changing the diameter or the area of where the MAF is. So the Q is going to be the same regardless. All I did was turn a giant blender on, which is the turbo, right next to it, which then makes this nice, steady, straight airflow just start going like this, all sorts of crazy through here. And then the MAF is like 20 volts, 5 volts, 3 volts, 1.0 volts, 6 volts, 82 volts, whatever. And then it's just going crazy on the screen. And the car is like going crazy and then spitting fire and not wanting to drive. So now let's look at where my MAF is and ultimately what I've got to change to make this work, which you guys said I'd have to change it the whole time. So you were right, I was wrong. I have to learn things too, I love it. All right, so we're gonna pull this thing off here. If you remember the last time we pulled this off, there was a broken turbo in here. So it's nice that I've got about 3 hours of runtime on this turbo and it hasn't exploded yet. So that's a big win. MAF sensor's not loose, not too worried about that. But this is where my hydraulics expert civil engineering brain gets to come into play, and we get to kind of analyze the flow state around this MAF right here. So we've got an air filter where air is coming in, it's all turbulent, the air is going crazy. It's gonna come in here, it's gonna go around this 90-degree bend, so most of your high velocity air is gonna be on the outside of the bend. I've twisted the MAF so that it's a little bit at an angle, which might not be desirable, but trying to just keep it in that higher velocity air that's coming around the outside. Goes across the MAF sensor and goes into the inlet of the turbo, where there is a compressor wheel spinning voraciously, trying to churn up every single thing that comes into it. So not ideal. You guys said so. I was like, it can't be that bad, and it's that bad. So let's go ahead and pop this off. So So inside the tube right here is the MAF sensor, which drops down in. It's measuring the air velocity and stuff across here. And what you really need is good, stable flow. Now, I've got the screen in there trying to help stabilize some of that flow, but because that big turns right there, this thing's not stoked. And let's look at how we could make this even better, okay? So at 7 stock, I saw a couple turbo RX8s. They're actually running pretty good in here. Don't hate me. This is called coupler slash sizing slash make things work. You just wrap it in tape so it's the right size for the 4-inch 90 here. Probably somewhere in here. And then to have a nice straight section of tubing before it. If I put it like here, then I don't have enough room to get all the straight section of tubing to stabilize the airflow. But basically, that's what we need, is this is gonna have to sit right here. So I've got a 45-degree coupler coming, some smaller tubing as well, and a filter, and we're gonna pull this whole front bumper off and improve the MAF location in the next video, because ultimately that's what made, you know, my hours of tuning completely a waste in this video, I think, is just because we need good airflow across this and we're not getting it. I do think that the fact that I don't have my blow-off valve recirculated would probably be a bigger issue, but ultimately we're not in boost right now, and I can't hear the blow-off valve actually pop off. I can't really even hear the turbo, like, any noise. So we're kind of just gonna keep rocking with what we got as far as the recirculated blow-off valve setup. This will at least let us have, though, if I can create some more space between the MAF and the inlet of the turbo, then we'll be able to recirculate the blow-off valve back into this coupler somehow in this vicinity. But we really need to make sure our metered air, which is what's coming through here, we keep track of all of our metered air. We don't want a metered air leak, okay? So that is where the yellow car is at, which is terrible. Now that you guys are RX8 tuning experts, hopefully one of you guys can help me with sorting this out exactly. I'm pretty sure I have a game plan of where I need to go forward, which we've talked about. So changing the MAF location, getting me nice, stable, straight airflow instead of the crazy blender of turbo wheel destroying all my airflow and getting my drivability back. You saw in the video that whenever I was floored and on the chip and the air is just rolling through there super fast, that the car actually runs pretty good. So I've done that a bunch. I've made pulls like that. The AFRs on the top end are plenty. We're making 4 pounds of boost, and you can hear it in the video where the thing sounds good. It sounds like it's ripping, and we're making good power. And I bet we're probably making like probably closer to 200 or 210 because it's actually not that slow anymore. So needless to say, can you at this point just bolt a turbo on your RX8, change some stuff in the ECU, and have a car that runs and drives? Yes. Is it going to be the most drivable thing as far as like, could your mom jump in the car and appreciate driving it? Definitely not. So in the current state of mind, I have to change some stuff to make this better. And no matter how much I drive it and play with numbers in the computer, I don't think I was going to improve that. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is one of those where I wish every single YouTube video I upload could be some great success story of the car working and it all happening. But for the sake of, I love being relatable and sharing everything that I learn and figure out with you guys, that this is part of the journey. We got to put the car together and spend a lot of time trying to get it right. And ultimately it's not right. So we've got to go back to the drawing board and change some stuff. I still kept my drawing board. It's up there with all the engine swaps that we're going to do to different RX8 stuff. Some of the cool stuff I've got coming up after just this video, jumping back to Buzz the Turbo RX8, is I spent some time with Kyle Mohan at his shop, and we talked about hybrid Renesis. We talked about Turbo RX8 and their experience. So get stoked for some of those videos to start coming out as well. In addition to along the lines of the hybrid Renesis stuff, I talked to one of my good buddies out of 7 Stock about choosing a turbo for the hybrid Renesis that's going to really achieve my goals as far as what I want that engine to put out horsepower-wise. So get fired up for some of those videos as well. I'm going to rebuild this MAF, and you guys are going to see this ripping, hopefully more, better, faster, stronger, harder, Daft Punk life, ripping on the road and actually drivable where I can cruise it in steady state and then not, go crazy. So that's the end of the video. Live a life you don't need a vacation from. I will see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check out the Patreon. I would not be able to do all of this without their support. So huge thanks to the guys over there on Patreon. Keep it rad. See you in the next one. So I'm telling you guys, this is the Garrett 2.0. Look at that. Garrett 2.0. Might as well be a ball bearing. Look at how fast that thing spins. Didn't even have any boost leaks with the crazy coupler 9000s of couplers that I've got going on here. I couldn't hear the blow off valve. Maybe it's because I have a hood exit. And then I had to put it on these lovely like Nissan Altima wheels because, well, the green car has the good wheels from this one, and the track tires are over there because I didn't want to be driving this around the track tires. So that's that. And if you remember the Patreon, you'd be able to really know what's going on with that car. I know I left it in the video in the last one, and we're getting there. Everybody's gonna be like, just take this and put it in that. Just take this and put it in that. But like I said, this is like 40 times the value of that. Wouldn't be worth it. Peace, guys.